Hi and welcome to Studio SN. My name is Sara Naumann and today I'm going to show you a simple transfer with gesso. Gesso is great for transferring photos. It's really easy to use and it gives a very pretty effect. And it's also a really nice way to use your photos on your cards and your other paper crafting projects. And I've got my photo here on the front of my card. This has been transferred with gesso onto a piece of watercolor paper. And it's super easy to do, so let me show you. The first thing you need is, of course, a photo, and you need to have a laser copy of your photo. I usually print off a whole bunch of photos onto my home printer and then take them to my local copy shop and make up lots and lots of copies so I have a lot to play with. An inkjet print is not going to work as well. You'll end up with a lot of the ink running all over the place, and it's just not as nice of a result at the end. So I would go with a laser print. Now you also need to have some paper to put your photo onto. And I'm working with watercolor paper, just a little piece of it. You really need to have something that's a bit heavier weight. Basically think of it like a manila tag weight or heavier. Something very light is not going to have quite the result that you want. So laser photo, heavier weight paper, and of course you need to have your gesso. And I'm working with Claudine Helmuth's Studio Line Gesso. So I'm going to move my photo out of the way and get my gesso open. And gesso is, it almost looks like a white paint. And you can use it for a lot of things like transfers or also for priming canvases or paper. So you can use it for a lot of things. But this is one of my favorite ways to use it. Now when I'm putting my gesso onto my watercolor paper, I'm thinking of the application in terms of consistency of like peanut butter on toast, or sometimes you think of it as like frosting a cake. Not too much, you don't want to glop it on, but you do need to have enough so that the photo has something to grab onto. So not a really thin layer that won't transfer quite so well. So think of it as maybe buttering your bread or putting peanut butter on it. So let me show you, maybe I can tilt this a little bit and you can see the kind of consistency I've got in there. So the next thing I need to do is take my photo and put it face down into my wet gesso. So you do need to make sure that you've got all of the corners and areas have gesso on them, and you just need to sort of burnish this down. It really does need to be pressed firmly in here. Don't just set it on top, because again, the ink on your photo needs to kind of grab into the gesso. So I always burnish it a little bit with my fingers. You could also take even the lid of your gesso and kind of rub this around on here just to make sure that it's on there nice and firmly. And then you just need to let it dry. And this can be the trickiest part because, of course, you want to work on your project right away. I normally do a batch of these at night and then come back the next morning and I will have something to work with. So let it dry overnight. You do need to make sure that it is really, really dry before you start the next process. And that's simply adding water and rubbing off the back of the paper. So I've got a mister bottle here and I'm going to spritz this. And you can already see some of that ink sort of showing through here. Spritzing this pretty well, and then I just need to let it sit for a minute, let the paper relax, and let the water soak into my paper, my photo, and then start rubbing with my finger. And I'm rubbing gently but firmly because you want to get off the paper pulp, but you don't want to rub so fiercely that you're ripping off the entire thing. So rub firmly but gently, and you can see already where that's part of this is starting to show. You will get some areas probably where it doesn't transfer perfectly. That's okay because it kind of gives a shabby chic effect, which is also nice. And I'm just rubbing back the paper from here, and you can see that photo starting to get brighter and brighter as I do this. So this is the really exhilarating part of the project, as you can see. You just need to rub and rub until you've got all of the paper pulp removed, and you can really see on here now how my photo is starting to show through. And now it's actually transferred onto that watercolor paper. So as soon as I'm done with that, what I normally do then is take a little bit of a multi-medium or a gel medium, and once this is completely, all the paper is completely rubbed off and it's dry, then I'll take a little bit of the gel medium and just rub it onto the surface of my transfer. And that gives a nice sheen to my finished project, and it also helps remove any last minute little fuzzies that might be on there. So let me bring back in my finished card and show you. You can see there are some areas on here that did not transfer perfectly, and that's okay. I think it kind of lends to the look of the photo and the card. But when I trimmed down my photo on that watercolor paper, I just left a border around all four sides to give it almost a bit of a matte. I added some copper brads on here and then put this up onto a textured green cardstock and then onto some of this pinkish paper. And I was really going with the colors of in my photograph. And this photo actually is of an angel statue in a church outside Antwerp in Belgium. And of course the original photo, the statue is gray because it's a statue. And I took the photo and just did some very simple photo editing in my photo editing software on my computer, and boosted the color contrast and the exposure. So it gives a bit of a more colorful effect to a stony gray statue, and I really like it. But again, it does lend itself well to this sort of shabby chic effect. I tied some ribbon down here around the bottom just for a touch of softness. And I think the finished result is a really nice way of incorporating photos into your paper crafts. So this is how to make a photo transfer with gesso. I hope you enjoyed today's segment. For more inspiration, please do stop by my website at saranaumann.com. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.